All right. Thank you all for being here this morning. Good morning to all of you. Welcome newcomers. Welcome our seasoned veterans. My name is Blake Norman with the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. I want to start off this morning by thanking our sponsors, Kauffman Foundation, the Innovation Hub, ASB TDC, and Lavis Coffee. If you have not, please grab yourself a cup of coffee this morning. We are going to start this morning off with a quick video about 1 Million Cups and what it is.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities. It creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable. Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what, my idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
All right, very good. So this morning we have Mr. Joel Gordon, the Executive Director here at the Innovation Hub. He is going to talk to us about a variety of things that are going on here at the Innovation Hub. And so I'd like to welcome him up now. So please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks, Ben. I am so uncomfortable on a microphone, but we're apparently recording, so I need to do this. All right, well, really what I want to talk to everybody about today is just this idea of what a makerspace is. So most of you know us as a makerspace. You know that this idea of a makerspace is that you have access to tools and materials, and you have this opportunity to meet other people who are making. But one of the things that I've really been discussing across the country for the last year is this idea of what's after the makerspace, what's beyond the makerspace. So one of the things that we're very interested in here that we really try and encourage at the Innovation Hub is something that we call micro-manufacturing. So as new small businesses, many of you are working with hardware, software, you're developing a product. If you think about any small business, and the classic idea of a small business, when I tend to think of it, is more of an office space. So if you have your office space, then you open your office, you bring in computers, you set up workstations, and you open your company and you go to work. And in the United States, that's often the case. That's what we see every day. We see people who are helping people, and that's what an office is. But in the United States and all over the world, you have other companies that are developing product. And not simply buying a piece of product and then reselling that product to their clients, but actually developing that product, the way that any of you here might develop a piece of software. So in the case of hardware, there's a lot more involved. You're actually creating an object. There are processes that you use, and all of those processes that are used in manufacturing, we actually reflect here in our makerspace. So if you go into the makerspace at the Innovation Hub, you'll see laser cutter and engravers where we can create a variety of things, and really anything from art to mechanics. So if you think about an artist creating a visual piece where they're taking a piece of glass or a piece of acrylic and they're engraving maybe a trophy of some sort for someone here at 1 Million Cups, or a full-on art piece that they've conceptualized and they're creating. Well, that's one side of it, but the other side of it is the engineering side. I can take that same piece of tool that we're using to create a piece of art, and I can make a very precise mechanical piece for you, a gear for a piece of machinery, a housing, really anything that you can imagine. And that's really where it begins. It begins with imagination and need. So if you come into a makerspace, what you're normally encouraged to do is to learn to use this equipment, whether it's that laser engraver, cutter, the 3D printers, our woodworking, metal shop. But if you're a small business and you have an idea, you have a product that you want to create, and you want to get that product to market, maybe you're not the final sales end of that. Maybe you've developed a product that you see as really something that you're going to bring to a larger company. Let's go with, I don't know, Walmart, because that's an easy one. If you have a product that you're developing and you want to take that on to where a retailer like Walmart can sell your product, then there are a few steps that you have to take. First, you have to conceptualize that idea. You have to go through a straw man period where you're really looking at the idea and saying, how can I improve this idea? How can I make sure that I'm seeing it from every angle? And just like any entrepreneur, you're going to discover who your customer base is. You're going to work that product through that customer base, figure out who your ideal market is and how best to market that product. Once you have the concept, you take it to the next step of actually creating a proof of concept so that you know this is going to work. And that could simply be a drawing. It could be computer-aided designs. It could be just a mock-up. Beyond the mock-up, where you've seen visually, this is what I want, this is about the size I need it to be, then you start to look at the components. You start to look at how can I make this product manufacturable. So again, we're back to these same tools that we have in our makerspace. These are design tools, they're prototyping equipment, and that's the next step. You're going to create that working prototype. Now, if you're a maker, it's a lot easier to do that. You learn to run the tools, you take your idea, that concept, and you actually create that working prototype. You make a real thing. A lot of us in small business, we don't have time for that. So the next natural step after you are able to possibly hire someone, an engineer or a firm to create that working prototype for you, is to get it in front of a manufacturer and say, I need to have these made. Well, that's usually where the chasm begins. It's a big leap from this idea of I've created a prototype and now I have to have it manufactured. There's a huge leap to that, because in the United States particularly, and all over the world really, but really in the United States, our manufacturing is geared for, at a minimum, let's say 10,000 items. You're a small business, you're starting up. So in any small business, the first thing that you would do is you'd start small and you'd scale your business out. With a product, it's different. With a product, you need maybe to do the same thing. You're going to scale that business. So let's say that in your case, you need 100 of that product made, so that you can begin to identify your customers, you can start to build your brand, and you can get it out there. And by selling that first 100, you're going to raise that initial startup capital that you need. You'll have your customer base. People are going to want more of them. That's the idea, right? But getting that first 100 is almost impossible to do in the way that we have our industrial infrastructure. So coming into the 21st century, the world has really become a lot more about customization. If you think about your telephone, each of us may have an Android or you may have an iPhone, but each of us, whether we have the same model of phone or not, it's an individual phone. Just like our computers, we're going to load the software onto that computer that we need to use. If you're a developer, you're going to load those IDEs. If you're an artist, you're going to load that graphic software. It depends on what you're doing. With your phone, it's the same thing. You're looking for those apps. So we are all ultimately customizing a product. And that's the world that we live in now. And that's become desirable for everybody. If you're a small business and you're working with your clients, every client that you have is going to say, I really like this product that you're doing. I wish it could be this way. We've all dealt with that. So now take that idea and extrapolate it into the idea of manufacturing and product. In the 21st century, we're developing a society where people are starting to become more aware of the fact that most of our equipment, our items have become disposable. We're finally getting to that point where when I was a kid, and I'm just about to turn 50, but when I was a kid, a really great job to have was TV repairman. And I say TV repairman to kids today and they laugh because there's really no such thing. But if you look around now, you're actually starting to see that again. You see computer repair, cell phone repair. And these are standalone brick and mortar offices where you can take that equipment in and they're actually repairing it for you instead of just throwing it away and buying a new one. along with that idea, the equipment gets a little more expensive because the quality has to be a little bit higher. People are demanding more, and that's a good thing. So the big worry that a lot of people have today, and I'm sure you've all heard this, is this idea of a robot-proof job. So if you're going to create a robot-proof job where you're not concerned with being automated out of your business in 5 years, you really have to look at what's at the root of that idea. And I believe that it's about creativity. It's about being able to stay nimble in a market and shift in one direction or another. So go back to the idea of a product. If you're creating a product, a piece of hardware, and you want to serve your broader customer base and give them exactly what they want, then there are ways that you can automate physical products. If I'm making a bicycle, and this is a great example because this already exists, there are bike stores that you can go into now, and they have these sort of bizarre looking skeletal little machines, and you sort of climb on top of it, and they raise one bracket of this machine up until you're sitting on the saddle. They have another piece that sort of looks like handlebars, and they adjust that, and it goes up, and you say, I want my handlebars right here. They can adjust the pegs where the pedals would be, and you say, I want my pedals about there. And they literally are moving this thing that sort of looks like an exercise machine around until it fits your body like a glove. That machine is taking all of those measurements, every bit of where you're placing your body, and it's breaking them all down into individual measurements that equate to the down bars on the bicycle, the handlebars, the placement of the headgear for the pedals, and all of those numbers go into a computer. They're sent via the internet, the magic of the internet, through the air, and they coalesce in a little factory in Missouri where they're employing 16 people. And 16 folks get that piece of digital file in, and in a matter of a day or two, they've built your bicycle, and it fits you like a glove, and it's blue, and it has a brown leather saddle, and maybe there's a bell, anything you want. Fill in the blanks, check the box. It's exactly what you want. And ultimately, I think that's sort of what everyone wants, right? It would be great to be able to get any product just the way that you get your phone and you load the apps that you want. If you could get your car and you could customize your car to a certain extent. And I think that's where we're going. So I don't think that in the 21st century, and we're already seeing this model, you don't see these big factories that are coming into your cities anymore that are getting huge tax subsidies and taking up large pieces of municipal property for a single purpose building. You see a lot more small offices. You see a lot more small businesses. And in a country like the United States that's built on the back of manufacturing, we need to do the same thing with manufacturing. And if you don't believe that model will work, how many microbreweries do we have here in Little Rock? Because that's the same example. If you look at a microbrewery and what they do, it's not Budweiser. It's not a giant company. Not that I'm knocking Budweiser. Budweiser's great. But if you could go local and you could actually visit the microbrewery that's down the street from your apartment or your house and enjoy a beverage with a group of friends, and you know that it's employing people in your own town. And if you look at that idea, you know, we have microbreweries here that are actually shipping to other states. So that's money coming into our community from outside. Exactly the way that if you're running your business and you're selling your product online, you're handling customers through the web, then you have money that's coming outside of our community and back in. In a way, it's cottage industry. It's a new cottage industry for the 21st century. So here at the Innovation Hub, one of the things that we can do for you is micro manufacturing. So if you have an idea, you may not want to come into a makerspace and learn to use that equipment, learn to run a 3D printer. You may have this idea that you need to coalesce, that you need to turn into a product, and you need to have made for you. And once you have that prototype and you've shown that to a few customers, then that next step is, I need 100, I need 200, I need 1,000. Eventually, you're going to get to the scale that our manufacturing is currently designed to fulfill. You'll get your customer base, you'll get the product out there, you'll have brand recognition. And then the next thing you know is you need 40, 50, 100,000 of your product because you're growing your customer base. So if you think about that idea, it really makes me pause for a second and wonder how many products are out there that could be incredibly powerful new products being manufactured right here in Arkansas that never make it that far. And to give you an idea of what that can be, in 3.5 years since we've opened our doors, we've developed 65 prototypes in this building. So far, that's what we've done. We've developed prototypes. We're really good at it. Now we have 65 teams, businesses, who have products that they're ready to sell. And that next step is I need to get my product manufactured and I need to get it on the market. But that's, again, that's that big gap. So we're trying to fill that gap. And one of the things that you see in the United States is that a lot of people don't like to take that first step in a new business and a new idea. So it's a little easier for us as a 501c3 not-for-profit to sort of lead the way and show people how this can be done. And that's really our effort moving forward. So if you haven't taken the time, and I know a lot of you have come to 1 Million Cups before, but if you haven't taken the time to sort of explore the entire building and look at the things that we offer, we'd love to show you around. We'd love for you to see exactly what it is we do here and maybe find out ways that you have the opportunity to take advantage of what we do. And on that line, since everybody's here and I'm going to stop talking, I actually have Bradley Dixon, who's here, and Brad is a client that we've made a product for. We designed his prototype, and he's at the point where he's ready to manufacture. So that's his next step. So if you really want to see how that works, Brad's a great person for you to talk to. And on that, I can put my mic down and start asking questions or answering questions.
Who has anything for Joel, feel free to shoot him at him and he'll field them as necessary.
Or we could all drink coffee together.
Or we could answer questions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of product that we use daily is going to remain exactly what it is. I think the things that I'm talking about are going to be more on the one end of the scale, let's call it couture or bespoke. On the other end of the scale, it's dynamic and technical. So dynamic and technical, let's start with that. So, you know, you're a developer and you are doing coding and programming. When you choose your computer, you're very picky about that, right? You want to make sure that it's got the right hardware installed, that it's going to be able to perform the capabilities that you need. And that's not unique. I mean, that's something we're doing right now. So that high technical end is pretty simple. But then think about the other end, the couture, the bespoke. Right now, there are industries in the United States that do that exceptionally well. So look at the fashion industry. If you're willing to spend the money that you would spend on a wedding dress, for instance, knowing exactly how that company works and how a designer would create that object for you, it's pretty clear to see that there's a market for that. So take that same idea and just put it into a broader market. It's more about having the ability, having the capability to have access to the machines, to the automated processes that you need. So look at a designer, for instance, someone who's doing custom clothing. This is just an easy one. If you think about hand sewing, well, a lot of things aren't hand sewn anymore. They're is a designer who's creating a pair of jeans, and those jeans are going into a factory and they're being mass produced. But we're not all made the same. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. I'm pretty short, so things don't fit me well. I usually end up getting my pants hemmed, and it's really hard today to find somebody who can do that. So as we move forward and people are starting to desire those things, the really exciting part is that not only is it opening this idea of a broader product base, but it's also a broader job base. And it is getting back in a lot of cases to this idea of what can I do with my hands? What can I do with my creative mind? And be more specific about what I do. As far as the ability to make the choices, I really think in most cases it's still sort of a check the box. If you look at the bicycle, for instance, and there's this company that I was talking about, I believe they're called Country Comfort, is the bicycle. You're walking in and you really have a list of a few things. So let's do the clothing comparison again, and I'll bring that into the bicycle. You go into a tailor and you're getting married, and you've got to get your suit tailored. You got to get that tux for your wedding. So you're walking in and there's a tailor and they're measuring your leg and your instep, and they're hemming the clothes and they're putting it together. That would be a whole lot easier if you could step in, if you could automate that process by stepping onto a little circle in the middle of their studio and actually have lasers measure your body, right? Which seems very far out. But it's being done right now, and it's not particularly expensive technology. So in fact, there's even a company that's online right now that you can download an app for your phone, and you can scan yourself on your phone, take a few photos, and get a custom tailored shirt. So that's happening. You can walk into that bicycle store exactly the way you'd walk into the tailor's studio, and they're going to measure you for that bicycle. It's more a challenge of being able to use our imaginations again. Yes, sir, David. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's still going to be a need for those old-fashioned skill sets. How do you create an education process that supports gaining those skills that are not going to be secondary education? You turn the freight train around. That's the challenge. Turn the freight train around. So you look at one of the best examples that I love is Finland. Finland, the country, So I lived in Europe for a year. I was in France, and they have an apprenticeship program still in Europe and in other parts of the world, where kids are coming out of high school and they are learning careers, and we're starting to catch on to that. But I think we're a little hard-headed in that we spent, I think, the 1960s and the 1970s, I think that we got way into this idea of efficiencies in the United States. How can we efficiently process something? We lost a lot of our creativity. In fact, when I came back to Arkansas, I grew up here, I was sort of shocked that we didn't have shop class in school anymore. And I'd come from Chicago, where they still have it. We're moving more into this idea of having opportunities for career path training, which I think is a great idea. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's still a stigma. It is. And that's what I mean. That's turning the freight train around. But you look at a nation like Finland. Finland is a nation with this idea of turning the freight train around. They weren't doing well with their students. Now they're number one in the world. Their students are number one. And the reason they're number one is because they just got together and said, we got to turn the freight train around. So the first thing they did was they got rid of curriculum. They have no curriculum. Students go to school an average of 3 hours a day. That's it. They have no homework. So what they have time to do is they have a lot of time to be creative, to follow the things that they love, and to explore the possibilities. We have I believe a 52 to 56% graduation from high school to college rate in Arkansas, which nationwide is pretty good. One of the things that you don't hear people talk about is that we've also got a 26% dropout rate in the first 2 years. And I think a lot of young people are dropping out of college because they really don't know what it is they want to do when they get there, because we're not exposing them to enough. So that's really my hope, that in the next couple of years, we really start to expose our students to more. I think the computer science initiative that we're doing in Arkansas right now is really amazing. It's giving a lot of young people who have fallen in love with the idea of computers, it's given them insights into what they're capable of, and what they, not only computers are capable of, but what they're personally capable of. If you look at our students here in our after school program and during our field trips and our summer camps, there's this incredible amount of talent, and they're really passionate and they want to do things, but they don't get the opportunity. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. And oh no. Oh no. Yeah, it's big, and it's exactly that. It's opportunity. It's being given opportunity, accessibility. I'm sorry, you had your hand raised. I went to Pulaski County Special School District, and specifically Sylvan Hills. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly the trend that we're starting to get in the United States, and I think it's exactly what we need. We tend to, and it embarrasses me, because the older I get, the more I realize I sound like my dad. But you know, and I guess that's kind of true for all of us, whether we want to or not. But you know, I never thought that I'd be at that point where I'd waggle my finger at the next generation and go, well, you're not doing this. But I found myself doing that, and I'm lucky because of what I do now. I actually get the time to talk to young people, and I see them do these amazing things, and I see this desire that they have. But if your relationship with young people is kind of tertiary, if you're 3 persons removed and you're looking at them from a distance, then it's like our parents looked at us and they were like, look, they're all cattle. You know, but you get into their heads and what they're doing when they're on that phone, and we think, well, you know, all they're doing is texting their friends. They understand that technology, they're using it. We just have to encourage them to use it like a tool. And that's the trick. You know, you don't want to bend people to, as a manager, as a leader in working in different industries. You know, my philosophy is that as what you do as a manager is you hire smart people, and your only job is getting rid of the obstacles that keep them from doing their job. That's it. You don't tell them how to do it. You don't tell them what they need to be doing. If you're hiring smart people, they're there to do that work. The trick is just making sure that everything that they need to do it is in front of them. And it's the same way with kids. It all translates down. And, you know, we have an incredible group of teachers in Arkansas. They're the hardest working people I know. And it's a challenge every day to stay passionate and to lead these kids through life and to give them as many opportunities as you're capable of giving them. And that's really the trick. So, you know, we need to be focused on this idea of what's next. So I tend to look at things like a futurist. I sort of go, well, you know, this is happening, and in 2 years this will happen, and in 5 years this will happen. And that's the attitude that we all need to have, whether we're working with kids, working in our own businesses. What's the next big thing? And giving anyone that you work with, whether it's kids in school or it's your employees or it's your executive management or your board members, you want to make sure that people are always looking at what's the next big thing. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you, you were addressing earlier this big chasm. Once you get your prototype, and then you approach a large manufacturer, and there's not really one in this country that makes certain parts
Right.
that I'm needing. So is it still possible to keep it in the United States?
Oh yeah,
Familiar with what I'm building.
Oh yeah, I think it's utterly possible. The trick is finding the resources, and I think that's the biggest challenge for most people who want to manufacture. We tend to, and I see this all the time, and I know that Bradley, you've experienced this. We tend to look locally, and then when we can't find it locally, we go to China because it's the easiest thing to do. It's really obvious. You can get on the internet. They're very focused on manufacturing. And that's kind of my whole point, in that this is exactly why we need to be doing this. But the problem is that right now, the model that we sort of have for a small shop that manufactures is sort of the repair shop model. And we need to get beyond that repair shop model and get more into the micro manufacturing model. And I believe that in the next 5 years, it's going to explode because, you know, a lot of things in the world are a little unstable. We need to have things close to home. You need to be able to get the processes done that you need done. And if you can, you know, if you can have a company that's creating websites for people, and you can do all of that right here in Little Rock, we can do anything right here in Little Rock. You know, it's whether you're designing websites or you're a microbrewery, there's all sorts of things in between, and we just need to start filling those niche markets. And ultimately, that's what success is about. You find that niche that everybody wants, and you fulfill the niche. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage other people to do it. It's just showing people the model. We good? All right, great.
I'll ask one more question that we always kind of wrap up 1 Million Cups with is, what can we as a 1 Million Cups community do for you and for the Innovation Hub?
Come here. That would be great. And tell everybody about it. And encourage people with these ideas. Ideas are wow, this is a horrible comparison. Ideas are like diseases. If they're good ideas, they'll spread, right? So we just need to have these viral ideas, and we need to spread those ideas. And I think it'll happen quickly. If you look at technologies in the world today, I mean, everything's going so fast, we can barely keep up. And technology is just the physical manifestation of an idea. And really, if you're going to compare it, then what we're really seeing is that ideas are spreading rapidly and they're becoming real physical things. And I think that's really exciting. This is a great time to be in. It's sort of like, you know, the late 50s when cars and appliances exploded in our homes. I think we're back in that phase. You know, history is just a loop, and I think we've come around again, and we all need to be taking advantage of it.
Very good. Thank you, Joel. Thank you all for being here today. Please give Joel a round of applause. Remember to follow sponsors and 1 Million Cups on social media. Use the hashtags. They're your handles there. We will plan to see you all next week, and thank you all for being here.